apparent enthusiasm, and I know it's not necessarily all of you for me, but your enthusiasm for being here today. I'm humbled by the opportunity to share some thoughts and update you on the state of the state and give you a sense of where I think we are and more importantly, where we're going. It is a remarkable place we live, California. You all know it well. The richest and the poorest state in America. It's that hybrid, that bifurcated reality that I think really defines this moment. It punctuates this moment. It punctuates the politics in California. Politics in many respects in this nation. I imagine it deeply divides many of you in this audience. My mom used to say, you're nothing but a mirror of your consistent thoughts. You tend to manifest what you focus on. Some of you are rightfully focusing on what's right with California and the extraordinary vibrancy and innovation and the entrepreneurial spirit that marks this moment, the historically low unemployment rates, the historically high reserves, the historically high operating surpluses, the fact that we're beginning to pay down pension obligations, a sense of hope and optimism that we substantively have turned a corner. Others of you are focused exclusively on what the hell's going wrong with this state. You watch Tucker Carlson every night. And, you're looking at the maps in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
That highlight feces.
Yes, feces. Disgusting.
Saying, what the hell's going on? I just paid 13.3% of my taxes, got a $10,000 deduction versus the deductions I got the previous year, and I've got 130,000 damn people on the streets and sidewalks. What is California doing? See more people self-medicating, drug and alcohol addictions than you've seen in your life. Needles. People out there in tents in unprecedented numbers. You're saying, what is going on with this state? Why can't we fix this? Why can't we afford to live here? You live that every single day because you hear that every single day. You're out walking the streets, sidewalk, people saying, how much is this house? It sold for what? A year ago, and they're asking this today. I mean, the affordability issue defines so much. You sit there bewildered by the fact we have 19% of our folks living in poverty, which is remarkable in California. Fifth largest economy in the world, $2.8 trillion a year economy, the envy of so many parts of the globe that close to 20% of our population living below the poverty line. And by the way, that is a housing number. The poverty rate in California is actually substantially better than the supplemental rate that we often quote. Poverty in this nation is at 12.9%. Poverty in California is at 13.4%. Marginally higher unless you consider the only thing you have to consider, which is cost of living. That's where you get the 19% poverty rate, the supplemental poverty rate. That's a housing issue. And that's what I know drives many of you to this moment and to your calling. Some of you careers, others your job. And by the way, something else my mom taught me. She said, jobs are nice things, they pay you. Careers give you status, but callings give you meaning. I hope the majority of you have found your calling, found your meaning and purpose. So what do we do about this? How do we address these trend lines of 30 plus years that are now, glaring headlines and address these things with a sense of urgency that this moment demands? Because it's an interesting fact. You have two dreams, the American dream and the California dream. With all due respect, there's no Kansas dream. Forgive me, there's a new governor, it may change, but it's an interesting fact. There's no other state attached to a dream. It's interesting, right? The California dream. But what is it predicated on? One thing, this, social mobility. And we put so much sand in the gears of social mobility that truly the dream is in peril. I don't think it is wrong to call this moment a crisis moment. I think we're lazy with that term or word, and I don't like to use it often, but I think we are in a crisis. Crisis of confidence, crisis of affordability. The California dream is in legitimate peril. When the headlines of so many of the news networks are the U-Haul trucks going to not just Austin, Texas, but, Nashville, Tennessee, Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington. That suggests something ain't right. And it suggests we've got to do more to address this issue. We are 49th, you know this, 49th out of 50th in per capita housing units. This is not that complicated. This is about Econ 101. It's called supply, demand. We are not building enough supply to meet the demand. So we're as dumb as we want to be. We are. I saw a billboard, by the way, down on the 405. Any of you been down on the 405? I don't need to say much more. So, there's this billboard. It says, "You're not stuck in traffic." And about, 20 minutes later, you get 50 yards closer. And you realize there's something else in parentheses below that blazing headline. You're not stuck in traffic. In parentheses underneath, in small type, it says, "You are traffic." Right?
Yep.
Just think about that next time you call your wife or husband. "I'm sorry I'm late, I'm in traffic." "No, honey, you are traffic." But what is that billboard saying? And why am I even bringing it up? It says nothing more than this: society becomes how we behave. We are our behaviors. The world we're living in happened on our watch. Our watch. Society becomes how we behave. Not conditions, it's decisions. The decisions we deferred, we delayed, or denied that have created this moment. We created this moment. We made decisions. We chose not to increase housing production. We chose not, with a sense of urgency, to address this issue 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago. We chose to deny the acuity of this crisis or delay a response to this crisis because it's hard. It's hard to have a CEQA conversation in Sacramento. It's hard to have land use conversations. It's hard to present a bill like Scott Wiener has presented and discuss the issue of how and where we build housing, because not everyone supports that. They want housing, just not here, not there, over there. I got mine. Why did we move into this community, Bob? Because we love this community. Single family homes, big backyards. We got ours. But what about your kid that's still living with you at 28 years old? You don't want them to leave as much as you want them to leave. You don't want them to leave because, maybe they may go out where, Uncle Bob and Aunt Cindy went when they moved the family out of California. You're scared they may join them in another state. Why? Because they can't afford to live here. Hell, they can't even afford to live in the house they grew up in. And it's not like your 28-year-old kids aren't working hard. They are. This is serious. Not just income inequality, it's wealth inequality. What's the greatest asset for wealth building? You live it. You get it. So this is a profoundly important moment. And it's punctuated, respectfully, by a number of other trend lines that are becoming headlines. There's a demographic trend line. There's an economic trend line, and there's a technological trend line, and they're all colliding together. It's truly a hinge moment in our history. We are about to enter a decade of real disruption. I believe that. Globalization, information technology detonating at the same time. Something big is happening in the plumbing of the world. You feel that. You sense that. You have family members that quite literally are working harder than ever, but honestly, legitimately, I know it's rote and cliched and politicians say this all the time, but they are running in place. You know, they're working at TaskRabbit. They're doing a little side gig, for Postmates. They may even have tried Uber and went to Lyft. That's not a judgment. But one thing they don't have is workers' comp. One thing they don't have is health care. One thing they don't have is health insurance at all, and any type of retirement security. They feel more anxious if they're working their tails off. Something big is happening in the employment of the world. We're going from something old to something new, contingent work, peak time workers, all these new platforms being created, more jobs being created, but lower paid jobs with less security, more anxiety. I was just reading the history of Youngstown, Ohio. My God, we all have to reread that history. Vibrant community, home ownership at record highs, vibrant middle class.
Wow.
Income stability, 1950s, marked a point of pride in our nation. September 1977, everything changed like that when their steel mill shut down. And it actually created, I didn't know this, maybe you do, but we did not have a vernacular around regionalizing depressions. A regional depression was formed. The economists came up with the term regional depression. That depression led to higher rates of suicides, more spousal abuse. And the irony of irony, in that region, they built 4 prisons in the 1990s because crime rates increased with foreign steel. It marks so much of this moment, doesn't it? I mean, that was I'm not here to get in an ideological prism. I'm not naive. 26 counties in California went for Donald Trump. And by the way, just because he supports something doesn't mean it's wrong. I said that. The converse of that is certainly true as well. It's an interesting point. I think we have to acknowledge that. But he certainly picked up on that. We better. I mean, we're living in 2 different worlds. As I said, not just in the same state, but we really see that disparity. As we move off the coast, 30, 40 miles off the coast in the inland part of the state. The United States of America is manifesting in this state more acutely than anywhere else. Someone said to me the other day, California is America, only more so. In every way, shape, or form. All the good and all the challenges. I also said California is where the future happens first, which is an important point as well. So, if it was decisions that brought us to this point, it's decisions that can get us out of this moment. And that framework, I think, comes from this paradigm. I am, for what it's worth, and I'm not campaigning here, but I just want you to know who you're dealing with for the next, until you recall me or get rid of me, who you're dealing with the next few years. I am not a redistribution Democrat. I am a pre-distribution Democrat. I don't begrudge other people's success. I admire it, and it enlivens me to see and witness success. I think that's a positive affirmational frame. But for me, it's about growth and inclusion. And I say that, and I think the vast majority agree, regardless of your political stripes. I'm a person, as you may know, I have 23 small businesses. I didn't get these inherited. Someone else didn't create these. I put pen to paper, quite literally pen to paper. Wrote business plans, managing general partner, restaurants, hotels, wineries, all up and down the state in 8 different counties. And I'm not saying that to impress you, but to impress upon you a passion for entrepreneurialism and business creation. But I will also say this, businesses cannot thrive in a world that's failing.
Right.
Businesses cannot thrive in a world that's failing. More income inequality, less consumer spending. Has an impact on growth. It's about growth and inclusion. And we have to deal with the fact that we haven't focused on an agenda to substantively address the lack of inclusivity in our growth that we've experienced in the last decade, not only in this state and in this nation. And that drives my why. That drives my focus, my energy, and I hope it drives yours as well, because I think each and every one of you intimately understand that relationship. More consumer spending, a more vibrant middle class, higher commissions. Not necessarily gross commissions, but in the aggregate. More sales. More property being transferred. More transaction taxes and allow us to invest in our growth. Virtuous circle. And so I want you to know we are deeply committed to trying to address these issues in a comprehensive way. And I want to just thank you. I'm not going to belabor your time or take more of it. But I want to thank all of you for your passion, for your faith and devotion to the cause of this state. You wouldn't be here unless you gave a damn about this state. You want to come up to Sacramento in the middle of summer unless you cared. And I just want to express that deep appreciation. I say about this world, you know, a lot of people just think they're bystanders in the world, that the future is just something to experience. And there's organizations like the REALTORs that recognize you have agency. And I emphasize the word agency in this room, where you can shape the future. The future is something to manifest. It's inside of you, not in front of you. Again, decisions that determine that fate. So let us step up our game and get serious. No longer building 100,000 housing units on an annual basis. Let's start building 300,000 to 400,000 housing units on an annual basis. Start to catch up. Let's continue, as your board of directors has been doing, to work with our labor partners, to work with the environmental community. Let's see if we can actually achieve the unimaginable, the unachievable, and that is some deal on CEQA to address some of these issues. I think it's possible with your support. You guys are engaged in that conversation. Let's continue our efforts to focus on affordability. Let's continue to focus on that issue above every other. It's not just housing, it's healthcare, it's education. It's all these issues that are driving this moment. And let us continue to work in enlightened partnership. California is unique at this moment. All that division, all that consternation, all that negativity, folks waking up every day to put a crowbar in the front wheel of the spokes of the other party in Washington, D.C. And you know what? For all of our division, all our consternation, you know what? When we did a migrant shelter down in San Diego, and I'm not getting deep in immigration, but I thought this was interesting, with legal asylum seekers, with these mothers and their kids, California, unanimously, every Republican, not just every Democrat in this state, said, you know what? We don't feel good about putting people on the streets and sidewalks at a Greyhound bus station. We're going to at least give them the dignity of an opportunity to get a hot meal and then figure out their next steps. That happened in California. This is a special place, working across our differences. That matters. And by the way, you're living in a state, 27% of us are foreign born. Living in a country, less than 14%. Oh, wow. Talk about the future happening here first. You saw what happened in that synagogue. There's 79 active hate groups in California that we know of. What's happening in our mosques? We're better than that. People look to us. People all around the world look to us to see it's possible to live together, advance, and prosper together across every conceivable and imaginable difference. We're a universal state. We practice pluralism. I know this is tough for many of you. I know it's tough for many of your clients. Trust me, it's tough for me getting home every night without the protesters that get in my way. I get it. I hear it every single damn day. But those trend lines are real. And we have a unique responsibility not to tolerate each other, but to celebrate each other. Because one thing I know, and I'll end with this, and I'll get off my damn high horse. Having spent half my life in Placer County, one of the reddest counties in California, and the rest of half of my life in San Francisco, one of the bluest counties in California. My San Francisco friends. There ain't any damn difference between the folks at the Monte Vista Inn in Placer County and the folks down at the Balboa Cafe in the Marina District in San Francisco. They love their children like you love your children. They want a sense of community and connection just like the folks on the coast. They have a deep desire of social connection. They care about their place. They care about their institutions. I don't know what the hell happened to us. We got so caught up with all our focus differences. Again, it goes back to what we focus on, that we manifest. And so I just, in the spirit of the nation's most diverse, its largest state, and the privilege we all have to be part of it, let us not forget that we're all better off when we're all better off. And as a guy who went to a good Jesuit university, you thought that ended with Jerry Brown? Sorry, you're going to get 4 more years of it. The Bible teaches us we're many parts, but one body. Right? When one part suffers, we all suffer. Dr. King picked up on that. We're all bound together by a web of mutuality. It's in that spirit. You want to go fast, Realtors? Go alone. But if you want to go far, let us go together. Thank you all very, very much for being here.